All right, here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, we are back again on the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. Look who we have. We have Ameya back in the Chelsea news group that we generally do on a Sunday at 11 a.m. UK time. And it's really good to have Ameya. Obviously, Kishan has been around for the last couple of weeks, but we try our level best to be around. Obviously, the boys are going to be busy here and there. Even I'm going to be busy at times. So it is what it is. But let's cherish when we are all together. First of all, Ameya, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Like you said, that was a bit of a break. I had exams, and then I was on vacation. But it's very good to be back, and I've missed this. I mean, every Sunday, it sort of became like a tradition for me to talk about. Every Sunday we get together and talk Chelsea, and I was feeling unfulfilled. I couldn't talk about Chelsea enough over the past couple of weeks. But yeah, it's great to be back, and I'm looking forward to this show. Hopefully, it's a good one.
Good stuff. Just on the side note, people who don't follow Ameya or do follow me on Twitter, Ameya, you went through that really bad Uber experience. I hope you complain and get to the bottom of it, because that annoyed me when I read that, because people shouldn't get away with that kind of stuff. So please take it to whoever it needs to go to, because that's not acceptable. Kishan, my boy, how you doing?
Yeah, no, it's good to be back, Miz, with a new guest that we've got on. I'm just joking. I hope your exams went well and stuff. And you look at the game yesterday, it's going to be, it's not as nice to dive into when we've not won compared to last week. So, but there's a lot to speak about, which should be good.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still going to be top of the table, regardless of what happens. City won, obviously. They didn't just win. Oh my God. Did you guys get to watch that match, by the way? Both of you guys? City, man?
Yeah,
I did.
I thought that was actually worse than the 5-0 that they got slapped with Liverpool, because City strangled hold Man United.
It was like a 5-0 without being a 5-0.
It was incredible what City did. Man United were at home in front of the home crowd, getting slapped around like City, by their rivals. That was incredible. Obviously, Liverpool playing today later on against West Ham. It doesn't really matter whether they win or not. We're still going to be top, and we're going to be finishing this segment of the international break period from the last one to this one on top of the table. But there is few things we can talk about. Few things that are, it may not be a huge issue right now, but it could potentially become a huge issue, and we should talk about it. But before we do all of that, thank you to everyone that has joined in the live chat. Do appreciate the support you guys always show. We've hit 8,000 in recent times, so thank you so much for that. And smash the like button. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Check out the boys and their socials in the description. Kishan on Instagram, and Ameya has his own YouTube channel. The link is in the description. Go ahead, give them a subscription. They do some really, really fun stuff. They started doing some reaction videos. They do watch-alongs. They do vlogs. They do quite a lot of stuff. So give them a follow. I can already see Frederick is here. Big up Miz, Advaita, Sharma. If Liverpool draw, we have gotten away with it. Yeah, man. I mean, it is a big match against West Ham, so we'll see what happens. They won't lose. All we can hope is a draw. Look, you never know. You never know. West Ham's not a bunny, as Ishan would say if Ishan was here. All right, let's get straight into this. Ameya, sit back, relax for a little bit. We're going to come back to you because you're debuting again. Kishan, I'm going to go to you first up. Before we talk about the match, Burnley 1-1. I want to talk about. There's a bit of a situation that's happening in the Chelsea fan base. Oh, this is why we miss Lukaku. We need him. We need him back. We should be putting those chances away. So that's one part of the fan base. Then another part of the fan base are like, yeah, but with Lukaku, I don't know if we'd be creating that many chances. We're not that fluid enough. I'm more in the situation. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm more in the situation that it's not about Lukaku. I don't think it's whether he's in or not. It's more about we just don't create for fun. I don't know whether it's the system. Defensively, we're rock solid. I like that. Obviously, yesterday we let that goal in, but predominantly we're rock solid. We've had many clean sheets and so on and so forth. Defense looks good. But Kishan, would you put us, and I know it's not fair to compare with City and Liverpool, but would it be safe to say we just don't create the way those guys do? If they slap 5, they generally create 10 good, decent chances. With us, we create 5, but maybe we take one chance, if that. Do you know what I mean? And that's the other issue, not being clinical. What's your thoughts about this whole situation?
I do understand what you mean in terms of us being as free creating as someone like Liverpool, but they also have like elite attackers. Whereas when you look at us without Lukaku, I wouldn't say any of our players in that sort of final third are like elite. They have the potential to get there, but right now Liverpool have like what, Salah, Mane, even you'd probably put Jota in there in terms of productivity. He's like really clinical. For us, I don't know. We just don't seem to have that guy. And without Lukaku, one thing we do say, and this was last week as well, we look at where the goal's going to come from, and game to game, I can't really point to someone who I know is going to score. Like in a game, I will probably right now, if I was betting my house on it, I'd probably say Chilwell or Reece James, and that kind of tells you everything. But they do end up in some really good positions, and I do understand what you mean in terms of those like really clear-cut chances. Yesterday, I thought the opposite. I thought we kind of put Burnley under the cosh quite a bit. But even when you look at the chances, I understand it's not like as easy as some of the chances we should be creating. I think
probably
even
Barkley's one. Barkley's one was probably the one that should have at least been in the target.
I think another one that was
Hudson-Odoi
probably even
two.
close.
Hudson-Odoi as well.
Inside the box. You know when he sold the defender and he was on his left foot? I think you've got to put that one away, because that one, like the goal is fully gaping at you.
That was saved, right? That was saved by the goalkeeper. Yeah,
that was saved by a goalkeeper. And then the Kai Havertz one as well. So in the second half when the ball came across, I think could have done better there. But again, that deflected over, didn't it? I think it hit someone. We didn't get the corner for it, but that hit someone and went over as well. So those kind of chances do come. But you're right. I don't know. Without Lukaku,
did we just lose
the McDonald's Wi-Fi again?
Yeah. Did we? Is Ameya there? Ameya's lost as well.
I think Ameya's looks like there's a blackout where he is.
He's gone. Ameya's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah,
Miz, we're lucky to have him in for 5 minutes.
Oh man, Ameya, Kishan, you struggle with your Wi-Fi big time, man. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, going back to the point, the whole chance creation. Continue. You were saying.
Yeah, so even with Lukaku, we don't get these chances because we're not as fluid. And he'd probably be watching some of these performances like Norwich and Burnley thinking, damn, why can't we play like this when I'm around? But like part of the reason we can't is like when you look at Havertz, it's probably his average position. I was kind of surprised when Reece crossed that ball in that Havertz was even there to nod it in that position, because I looked at where he was around the game, and sometimes he comes as deep as like a defensive midfielder and stuff like that. So with Lukaku, you're not going to get that side of it. And I am part of the fan base. I think we're more fluid without Lukaku, and I've seen that over the past few weeks. But it's like
there's a lot more movement without him. There's a lot more movement without him.
But we need to learn to do that with him, and that might be what system change or anything. But you can't spend £100 million on a striker and then say, you know what, we're more fluid without you, so you're not going to play, because everyone knows when he's back, he's amongst the first starters in the team. So it's about patterns of play and stuff, and certain combos of players that we need to see. So we've not seen players like Hudson-Odoi with Lukaku as much yet, Miz. So
I think that might work good. I think Hudson-Odoi with Lukaku could work good.
He's our like main creator, and then also players like Pulisic just coming back as well. We've not seen how he interacts with Lukaku. And
I was a bit annoyed with the substitution being so late yesterday.
Miz, I was annoyed with when Ruben Loftus-Cheek came on in the 70th minute. I didn't think that was a necessary substitute at that point for Ross Barkley. I know Barkley had just missed that chance, and maybe I think Tuchel must have thought he might drop his head, but I thought in general he was doing well, and in that position he suits better than Ruben Loftus-Cheek. If it was if Loftus-Cheek was replacing Kante, then I would have been fine with that. But I don't think the substitution to make then
I
was
just
to
wanted to
actually take
see
Ross off.
Pulisic a lot earlier. I just felt that the game needed to be, finished off, and someone like Pulisic probably could have done that for us. I mean, let's get to you, my man. I want to read out this particular comment from earlier. People saying we need Lukaku. Don't understand that if Lukaku played, we wouldn't have created those chances, and he hasn't scored 8 games. Look, I tend to agree with Kishan. You can't spend that much money on a particular player, which is your marquee signing, and not playing him. I'm not going to sit here and say Lukaku's the issue. I still want to go and talk about. I mean, and this is what I want to ask you, Ameya. From the last international break, the first game was Brentford till this one. So there was Brentford, there was Southampton, there was Norwich, there was Malmo, there was Newcastle, Malmo, Burnley. Brentford, I don't think we created enough. In fact, Brentford should have won, if anything. Southampton, once again, I don't know if we created enough either. I don't think we created enough. Yeah, there was a goal from Havertz, but I don't think we created enough. Norwich, 7-0. Okay, forget that one. That one, we created. Norwich was just as equally bad. That's fine. Who did we have after Norwich?
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
We had Southampton in the cup.
Exactly. We had the Carabao Cup fixture.
We had the. Oh yeah, okay. So it was Brentford, Malmo. Malmo we did good as well. Then Norwich, then Southampton, Newcastle. First half, I don't think we did enough, to be honest. Second half, yes, we were much more tactically. There was a bit of a twitch. Good goals from Reece, but it wasn't as if we were just for fun.
We weren't peppering them, Miz. We were speaking and we said we didn't know where the goal was going to come from. Then it came from a bit of magnificent individual quality from Reece just banging it in with his left, but it wasn't like we were peppering them for sure.
Exactly. So, and then this one as well, Ameya. Yeah, this one I can say we actually did create a bit. We just went clinical. What's your overall analysis from the last international break to this one? Do you feel we're a team that just goes out there and just balls out, or we do struggle to open teams up for fun? Like, I'm talking about City kind of opening up. And I know this is probably not fair. City have had Pep Guardiola for a long time, but, we do need to progress to that level, I feel.
Yeah, we do. And I think there's definitely some progression for sure. I think even against Burnley, you could see that our football, it's not that it's not fluid, even with Lukaku on the pitch. I just think that we haven't had everyone available. I mean, I know it sounds like a bit of an excuse, but let me explain completely here that Lukaku bad and run of form where he didn't score. I don't think Reece James was up to it at that time. I think it was Aspilicueta who was mainly playing in the wing-back position. And the one game that Reece and Lukaku played together was Arsenal away. And I don't need to tell you how that went out.
We look mad. Yeah,
exactly. And then Alonso was also playing earlier on the season, and then Chilwell now suddenly found his ground. Although I thought he was slightly poor against Burnley, but I think we can all agree that he offers so much more than Alonso, apart from just the goals, the link up play, the movement, all of that stuff. He just offers a lot more, and he's got into it. And then Lukaku throughout the season, I think we've established one fact that he plays a lot better when there's someone running off him, which is why we saw Werner doing that earlier. And in the initial part where we played Mount, Havertz and Lukaku together, that didn't work out too well. So I think Lukaku prefers someone who runs off him, which is why he formed that partnership with Werner. But Werner wasn't firing entirely up to his best either. And now we had Pulisic injured all this while. So now we have Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi who can, who are very good. And I mean, Hudson-Odoi especially has been exceptional ever since he's been given the form. So I really want to see Hudson-Odoi play with Lukaku. And probably one of Havertz or Mount on the right. I think that could work really, really well because Hudson-Odoi is creative. I don't think we can dispute that. His creativity has been excellent. And then you've got Lukaku there to finish your chances. And then you've got either Mount or Havertz on the other side to sort of provide that link between midfield and attack. And you've got Reece and Chilwell who are fit and firing on all cylinders now. So I think we just need that one game where I know Norwich we absolutely belted them, but I still think we need that one game where we go out and express ourselves with our fully fit 11. And it was always going to take time, right? Like you mentioned earlier, Tuchel hasn't been here too long, Lukaku hasn't been here too long, and he's got injured, unfortunately. So I think it's going to take some time for everything to come together, but I still think that we can manage it. I still think we can create lots of chances. But we had this conversation before the season started. Even I remember Kishan saying that we should have gone for Grealish, that we don't create enough high quality chances. And I still agree. I still think we don't. And it's not, you can't entirely blame it on the system, but it's, the system has its pros and cons. And its pros is it's given us the best defense in the league, right? And its cons is that we don't create enough high quality chances, but that's what you buy top quality forward players for. That's why you have the Lukakus and the Pulisic's and the Havertz to score that one goal despite not getting that clear cut chance. And hopefully it sustains up to the end of the league. And I still think it can. I still think it's a very sustainable system. And like the great Sir Alex Ferguson once said, it's attack wins you games, but defense wins you titles. So as long as you've got a solid back line, even though we don't score 100 goals this season, as long as we still have that solid defense, we can get a couple of goals up front from somewhere, and then we can still win the league. I still think that we're still very much in contention. I wouldn't worry just yet, but I mean, there's a whole talk about changing system. I don't want to get into that right now. It'll take up the entire episode.
Changing system is not easy, and we keep it the way it is. It's been working for us. So I'm not advocating for changing system. I'm just saying, how do you evolve the current system? How do you take the current system to the next level? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't just stay status quo on a certain thing. You find for improvement. Where can we improve in the current system? And that seems to be a bit of a situation.
I still think we've got the personnel to sort of make our system a lot more dynamic. I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek's emergence has been he offers something different in midfield compared to our other midfielders. I think that could be a huge plus, especially against low block sides, which was why I was a little surprised that he didn't start yesterday. But I still think Loftus-Cheek has that dynamic, and as long as we can keep Reece James and Ben Chilwell fit on either side, I think that's got our season sorted. And I still think we need to play one of Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi next to Lukaku at all times. I think that could be one of the things that could change. And once all of this happens together, then I still think that we could have a pretty solid system. I just want to see one game where we can see all of that together, and then I'd be happy to sit back and then pass comments.
And this is what I want to talk about now with Kishan, and take this conversation to the next sort of phase. Manhandle CFC, Jonathan, thank you so much for this comment. Please, guys, ladies and gentlemen, follow Jonathan on Twitter if you can. It's pretty much the same, Manhandle CFC. He does quite a lot of content for the channel as well, so it's fantastic. Still frustrated that we drew this game, part missing Lukaku, part missing chances we should score, and part complacency. Absolutely bang on. Kishan, I want to talk about this whole situation that we said, once these players come back. Looks like Lukaku already started doing some sort of training. He tweeted the other day, back running again and so on and so forth. So over this international break, hopefully he'll find full fitness back, and then we can kickstart from Leicester. By the way, Jonathan and Taryn are going to that Leicester game, and I said to them to link up with Kishan. I'm not sure. Kishan, are you going to that Chelsea-Leicester game? It's in your home ground.
Nah.
Bro, see if you can get some tickets, bro.
I'll see. Yeah.
So the boys are traveling.
A few fans from the Leicester side, though. So nah.
Fair enough.
Have to. Yeah, sitting in the Leicester end would be it.
Kishan, let's now talk about this whole situation of once these players do come back fit. I expect Lukaku to come back. I'm not really sure whether Werner just fits right back in. How important is it actually? I mean, to have a player like Callum Hudson, because I'm advocating for it as well now. I want to see Callum Hudson-Odoi with Lukaku up front. I really do. And I just feel Callum with the ball is a far lot more safer as opposed to Werner. I think Werner is a little bit erratic with the ball. I'm not really sure, always a bit critical about his ball control. And I feel like Callum is a better player with ball control. But I feel maybe Werner is more of a goal threat. And that's not really saying much because Callum
it's like, I think as a fan base, we allow Werner to be like, we've seen enough of Werner to know what to expect from him game to game. So if he doesn't touch the ball correctly, if he doesn't pass at the right time, if he doesn't do, we're like, it's Werner. He'll get it right eventually. Whereas someone like Hudson-Odoi, every single move of his is critiqued. Like if he's not doing something right, someone will be like, "Oh, this is why he's not in the team." Whereas for me, I think he's probably him and Pulisic are the two most naturally talented on the ball in terms of going past players. And I think Hudson-Odoi is more like direct in terms of his pace, whereas Pulisic is more sort of dribbled in and out of people. So they both got their separate qualities. But whilst Pulisic is missing, I feel like Hudson-Odoi is our chief creator. And you saw that even last week with the ball that Reece scored from. It was him getting down the byline and crossing it with his left. Stuff like that. So,
but even Champions League for Ziyech's goal. Ziyech was never going to score.
Miss, I just saw a comment earlier saying, why is Ziyech being mistreated at Chelsea? Because he played really well against Malmo. And come on, man. He played really well against Malmo. Like, he was so poor, yeah. And then
the comment that he played poor.
The comment said 5 key passes and rubbish stats like that, yeah. He scored that goal.
This is where I have issues with stats. I really do have issues with stats.
Fair enough, good positioning and stuff. It was on a plate. But, Miz, even you are Ziyech's biggest fan, and you can say that game and the one against Newcastle, come on. Like, so, and you look at, when I'm looking at him, when I saw Ross Barkley start this week, I was actually very glad. I was like, Ross Barkley all the way then. I was like, when he's come off the bench, he's actually showed me more. And yesterday, even though he missed that chance, I thought he was half decent yesterday. And half decent might not cut it. But yesterday, football is such a fickle sport. Like, one of our chances go in at 1-0 and we're not sitting here having this conversation about, do we need to change the system? When Lukaku comes back, will we be more like this? It's just like, if we got out with the win, with one more goal, or even if we just kept it at 1-0, we wouldn't be having some of these conversations. So it's a very fickle sport.
You know what? I'd say we still would, though, Kishan. If it was just 1-0, I think we would be like, we can't be getting away every game like that. There will be times where the Premier League teams, Kishan, you know it very well, and so do you, Ameya. And I've always said it. These Premier League teams are dirty. They always have one goal in them. They do. They have one goal in them. We could have gotten away with Burnley yesterday. We probably could have, because that goal, it seemed like we fell asleep. But Kishan, you know it, man. Sooner or later, these jammy goals will happen more often. As the weeks progress further and further, we play against teams that are fighting in the relegation zone or mid-table or whatnot. There will be more jammy goals like that. There will be. And it's upon us to ensure that we get not just the 1, but the 2 and the 3rd. Sometimes even 2's not enough. The Premier League's dirty, man. These teams are dirty.
And this is the thing, though, Miz. Like, that's the first goal conceded that one, like a set piece. Did it come from a free kick? I can't remember.
No. I think it was open play. Ended up.
This is why, like, I know you were saying during your watch along that we'd get caught at 1-0. It's not a safe scoreline. It's not a safe scoreline. But when I've looked at the kind of goals we've conceded this season, I just think, all right, we almost felt invincible from like play that's not a corner, a free kick, a penalty. So I didn't think the goal would come. I thought we'd see it out at 1-0 or get something really, really late. So when Burnley are pushing everyone up,
I was hoping for that.
The one really scary thing with them is height. So I know a ball came in and Jay Rodriguez won a header and it went wide ever so slightly, but that was the kind of warning that we needed. And we just didn't learn. And another thing is at 1-1, just the intensity to get back to winning. I felt like we were passing the ball so slowly around. Like, it was almost like we were winning 2-0. And it's like, come on. Again, Hamza saying, I hope you enjoy the non-poor players against Burnley.
We're going to get to Hamza. Don't worry. We'll get to Hamza.
We'll get to that. But what I'm saying is, like, in terms of performance, Miz, we've said this again yesterday, relative to how we've been playing a lot of the season, I didn't think there was much wrong with the performance yesterday. It was literally that final bit, and there's a lot of players to blame. You can blame Barkley for sure because he missed that chance, but there was a lot more chances missed. There was Hudson-Odoi, there was Havertz and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
The defenders as well. Christensen's open header, Thiago Silva hit the post.
Yeah, and then you
Thiago
got
Silva one,
Rudiger.
I wouldn't say it was his fault. He hit the post, so
Yeah.
Rudiger had
Christensen
those.
really should have scored that though.
Christensen should have scored.
Yeah,
That was a
Rudiger
open
had 2 headers as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
Two
Rudiger had a
similar
header.
kind of
Yeah.
headers.
Oh, Rudiger
Headers.
actually from the corner, open header, and he skied it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of players to blame for that, but at the same time, that performance wasn't anything to critique. And Tuchel probably said it best. He said, Burnley got very lucky today, but against Brentford, we got very lucky. And I think that's pretty much bang spot on. Really.
And I like what Tuchel said, that the game was a very good game from us. He said the game was a very good game, which we just forgot to score. That's what his analysis was. I think it was pretty much bang on. Marvel, he's saying Hudson-Odoi needs to start every game after the international break. He earned his spot. Left wing should be his spot until he doesn't play well. Yeah, man, I have to agree with this, because he is a chance creator. That assist that he's provided in the Champions League as well should not be overlooked. Against Norwich, I know a lot of people will laugh. Oh yeah, we spanked them 7. He scored a goal, and he was big part of that own goal as well. I think Malmo first leg for Kai Havertz, there was an assist. So he's probably one that has taken this opportunity with all these players injured. He's probably one of the very few that has properly taken this opportunity. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is the other one. Ruben has taken from a long time ago. He didn't even care about the injuries. He just went out there and balled out.
And we've been speaking about this as well, and it's like Hudson-Odoi, when Mount plays, they have this really, really good connection with their pass and move is brilliant. I think the one game in the season where Callum Hudson-Odoi actually played with Lukaku was against Southampton, and Timo was there that day. And in that first half, I actually found us really, really fluid, and we should have gone 2-0 up. And Werner scored a header, and do you remember it came back for that trivial foul that Azpilicueta did somewhere near the halfway line?
But that 1.5 minutes ago,
that was really fluid until that stage, and then we kind of lost ourselves. But I really liked that first half, so I'd like to see that kind of combo again, or maybe you stick in a Mount somewhere.
But you know what? On that game, and teams like Southampton, they actually want to play. They don't want to just defend. They want to come out and play. And we do okay with teams that want to play, until we play, obviously, Man City. That's when, obviously, this season we had a shocker. But last season we were good. But, I mean, I want to talk to you about Hamza. He's been talking a lot about Ziyech and why he didn't start. He gets mistreated. I think let's address this before we then revert back to what we wanted to talk about in this particular show. Before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got over 60 people live. Smash the like button. Let's try and get to 100 likes. That's the target for the stream, the team. We would appreciate 100 likes. And you guys have been buzzing in the live chat. You guys are enjoying it. So hit the like button. Let's get to 50 first up. That's 30 likes away. And then we'll try and progress towards 100. If you're here for the first time as well, subscribe. Please subscribe. We're going to try and go towards 9,000 and then off to 10,000. And check out the boys and their socials in the description straight away, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get to 50 likes straight away. We're about 27 likes away. Okay. Ameya, let's talk about the Ziyech situation a little bit. I know it's a bit of a hot topic, and I'm Ziyech FC. Everyone knows that. This is my channel, so we're going to talk about Hakim Ziyech. That's what we're going to do. I love Hakim Ziyech. Everyone knows that, but I want to try and keep it a buck now. I want to try and be as fair as possible. Kishan knows that. He always tries to keep me on the check. Like, hey, I know you like him, but let's be honest here. Okay. He's coincidentally, with all these injuries, he's got some game time. Newcastle was the first proper one, I feel, in recent time. Obviously, he got game time previously as well against Malmo and the likes, and Aston Villa. He just wasn't good in those games. Against Newcastle, this is my fair assessment. I want to see what you have to say, Mia. He did show up for the ball a lot more. He dropped into midfield. He showed up for the ball a lot, as opposed to maybe some other players. However, showing up for the ball, tick. What you do with the ball is also important. Getting dispossessed, mistimed passes, pressing was awful. Not as a unit. It just runs everywhere. And shooting just for the sake of shooting. Like, shoot when you know there's a proper opportunity to get something out of it.
And miss that on the right, cut in, left foot ball in. That's not worked for him since Sheffield United last season. Yes.
Exactly. And but you know what the funny thing is, that Newcastle game, especially the first half, or up until he got substituted, because after he got substituted, coincidentally enough, we then started banging in the goals. And I'm not saying that was because of Ziyech, but as Kishan was saying it last week as well, up until he got substituted, he was probably our biggest threat of getting a goal. Funnily enough, even with all the things that he wasn't doing, he was probably the one that looked like half a chance of getting a goal because of him showing up for the ball. Against Malmo, yes, great movement, great tracking, watching the runs, getting into that position, putting that goal in. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it was just a tap in. Yeah, it was just a tap in, but you had to work to get into that position to put that ball away. Kudos to Callum Hudson-Odoi for providing that assist. And also kudos to Kai Havertz to slide that ball through to Callum. But that entire match, once again, Ameya, pressing was awful, dispossessed, passing was awful. Yeah, you can say 5 key passes. Watch the match. Don't look at the stats. Tell me which 5 key passes are we talking about? Were they genuinely big time opportunities? My 2 big time opportunities against Malmo was Ruben Loftus-Cheek providing the balls for Kai Havertz twice. One where he slid in a ball in between 3 defenders and he put Kai through first half, and Kai tried to dink it, trying to be too cute, and didn't do it. Second half, similarly, Ruben Loftus-Cheek puts the ball through. Kai tries to take too many touches to go around the keeper and didn't do it. Besides that, I don't remember Ziyech's key passes. So this is where I have the issues with stats. Was it really a key pass that opened up and was open for a goal? I mean, what do you have to say, Ameya, about Ziyech's recent performances?
I think, first up, about talking about Ziyech, I still think that he's sort of a confidence player. I mean, most of the guys who have that ability, like, we know that he's got it in his locker to, cut in and provide those accurate balls, to, put in some very delicious crosses, or to break the opposition line. We know that he's got that in his locker. The issue is that, I mean, we did see it for a couple of games last season. Okay, Kishan, I can see you laughing there. So we know that he's...
Ignore him, bro.
So we know that he can do it. The issue is he can't do it consistently enough. And in the Premier League, you get punished every time you lose the ball. And with Ziyech, he attempts it so many times, and with the number of times that he attempts it, at least a couple of them will probably go where he intended it to go, but not all of them do, right? And so it does look like he loses the ball all too often, and sometimes what he's doing doesn't come off. And in the other leagues, especially like, for example, the Eredivisie, maybe you might not get punished, right? Because the other team will also try such ambitious stuff. But in the Premier League, when you're facing teams that just want to point out of the game, then they're definitely going to, pounce on every single mistake. And I think that Ziyech sometimes loses the ball, and not sometimes, most of the times rather, loses the ball, unfortunately. And which is why,
let's be honest, he gets dispossessed a lot. He does get dispossessed a lot.
Exactly, but he's always been that type of player. I think, even at Ajax, even in the Champions League, where he was respected so much.
Ajax?
Yeah, I mean, every time you go look at the possession, like the number of times that he's been dispossessed or possession lost, as they call it, that's a particular statistic, and it's always the highest in the team for Ajax. And so this is why you see it. If this is why compilations are so misleading, because he attempts the same thing 100 times and comes off 5 or 6 times, and those 5 or 6 times it looks incredible, but no one talks about the other 94 times.
95 times.
Exactly, and that's what's happening right now.
Before, when he came to Chelsea, I was watching that comp. I saw on YouTube, and it's called "This is what 99 passes looks like." Passing looks like Hakim Ziyech. Yeah, every single time he's got that ball on that right, he does that left foot, and then you got Quincy Promes there, or Donny van de Beek there, someone like that. Yeah, Tagliafico as well. So when we were linked with him as well, so it was insane. But this is my point on him, and I told you last week I've pretty much tapped out on the guy, and the chance when I will give him another chance is if we change systems. But all I'm saying currently is, in this system, I've seen way too much of him to know what he brings, and like in this system, I just don't think he's it. And I'll go back to this. Currently, Miz, we have Lukaku out, Werner out, Pulisic out. Mount out, really.
Yeah.
Those Pulisic and Mount coming back in, but they're out. They weren't in contention to start this game, and I still wanted to see Ross Barkley start over Ziyech. Yeah, and for me, that kind of says it all. So when these four come back, Miz, this guy shouldn't be getting a shout at all, in my opinion, because he's just not been it. Like when you look at someone like Hudson-Odoi, he's still somewhat taking his chance, like we were speaking about, to be in contention where someone has to kind of knock him off his place. So I don't think someone like a Timo comes in straight away. But this is the thing with Ziyech. Has he done enough to like guarantee even like a pity minutes at this point right now? It seems like
to be honest, he hasn't. And I go back to the point that you said, the system, this formation, the system really hurts him. But we shouldn't be sitting here and changing a system just for one player. But going back to your point, Ameya, the whole Ziyech situation, that compilation, the 5 chances looks great. We are just not that luxury team that can allow for Ziyech to hit. Ziyech hit 100 of those inverted crosses. We're just not that. I mean, that's where the situation lies. I want to ask you this, Amir, and then I want to ask Kishan this as well. Marva saying, I don't know why Ziyech doesn't start yesterday. Barkley right wing. Not sure about that. Barkley was more central as opposed to
exactly. I was
right
about to
wing.
say
I don't
that.
even think he was right wing. Callum was more right wing. Barkley was actually more of a 10. Callum and Havertz were more sort of up front in the front too. I mean, I want to ask you, and I know Kishan's point of it, he was happy to see at least Barkley. It was a bit of a surprise for me. For me, I wasn't even happy or anything. I probably expected Ziyech, but then I was like, I could understand why Barkley's starting because, let's be honest, Tuchel probably is not completely sold with Ziyech. But I mean, were you somewhat surprised that Barkley started ahead of Ziyech? I mean, what message does it give to Ziyech? Ziyech has only played against Newcastle and Malmo recently, but he's been substituted off, so it shouldn't even be about fatigue. So what's your thoughts about that situation?
Yeah, it was a little surprising, honestly. I didn't expect Barkley to start at all. That was pretty much a shock for me. I thought Loftus-Cheek would start actually, but that's something different altogether. But Barkley starting was very surprising. Ziyech, although to be honest, I sort of expected him not to start this one, and I'm going to be honest. I thought that he wasn't good enough, and in our previous couple of games, so I still thought he might get some minutes yesterday. But I think because because of the situation we were in yesterday, I think that Thomas Tuchel decided to bring on Mount and Pulisic after the Loftus-Cheek substitution. So I think with Ziyech, I'm with Kishan on this one. Unfortunately, I think as long as we keep this system, I just don't see any way he fits in, especially with Gallagher knocking on the door with the performances that he's putting in for Crystal Palace next season. It's a no-brainer really to replace Ziyech next season.
Gallagher is a shoo-in now. He's banging.
Bro, we talked about him. We talked about him last week.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
and he's gone and got another one.
I just think exactly. So it was a little bit lucky, to be fair, to a deflection, but I still think that a great goal nonetheless. And he's been one of Palace's
luck, right? You got to make your own luck. You got to shoot.
Exactly, and he's been one of Palace's best players this season. So, but you've got players like that, but you've got Harvey Vale on the bench, who's also left-footed, by the way, who wants to break into the first team, who's highly valued by Thomas Tuchel. I just don't see any way Ziyech stays. I mean, he was brought in to be that experienced winger because, you look at all our other players, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Mount, Havertz, none of them are in their prime. They're all 22 or below. And you've got Ziyech, who's now 27, he's 27, right? Or 28. I don't know, one of those.
I think it's 28.
Yeah, exactly. So this should be his literal prime, and if he can't get in ahead of 20-year-olds, 20-year-old kids who are nowhere near their prime, then I think it's time to go. Unfortunately, I especially at Chelsea, which is one of the most ruthless clubs in the world, really, not even in the Premier League, in the world. I just think that it's too far gone for him, honestly.
Aka saying, by the way, I've actually got Conor Gallagher in my fantasy Premier League, ladies and gentlemen. It's high time. He needs to be there at 5.7.
7, yeah.
Oh man, that's a
really good. Ameya, one more thing with Ziyech is he's turning 29 in March as well. So I think we should try and get this guy off the books in January, possibly. Because once he turns 29, you're closing in on 30, and the fee we'd get for him would probably start. I don't even know what we'd get for him now. Probably be
I
lucky to
don't think
get.
we're gonna
I think
get
we'd
any
get one of
permanent.
those deals. To be honest, it'd be an AC Milan loan kind of
Yeah,
deal. No?
exactly.
I could
It'd be a
see,
loan.
I could
I
see
think
him
it'd be a
going
loan
somewhere like
first.
that, and
Yeah.
see, I can see him going somewhere like there, being appreciated and tearing it up because they might have some more scope, slower league. For us, he's just not it, man. I've tapped out on that guy now. So yeah.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, AKK is saying, I think Ziyech is a good player, but this system doesn't suit him. He's also way too wasteful. Nah, it's absolutely well said. Going back to this point, we've got another comment here. I'm a football fan, Chelsea from Suriname. My be Ziyech is not good, but I don't like Lukaku. If you don't see it, then you are not a footballer when the game is changing. I mean, look, Ameya, there's a lot of talk about Romelu Lukaku in the fan base at the moment, and we kind of started this particular show talking about this, right? That him playing, not fluid, him not playing, we're fluid, but we can't convert. Where are you sitting in this situation at the moment? I mean, there is a point though. Like when he plays, it's like, as Kishan said earlier, when Havertz plays, he drops that into midfield and helps out, and then the defenders don't know what to do. But when he plays, it's kind of defenders got caught. As soon as he took care of what's that player that he took care of in Arsenal? What's his
Pablo
name?
Mari.
Since then Pablo Mari has never faced a football match again. And since he took care of Pablo Mari, most of the other teams kind of caught up that, you know what, big boy, we're gonna have two on you. We're gonna have two on you and see how you manage two. And surely enough, things started drying up a little bit for him. There was some clutch goals, one no. And our entire game started to look a little bit one-dimensional because Lukaku wasn't dropping into midfield. And then again, you probably don't want him to drop into midfield either. Where are you sitting in this situation where you don't want to be a one-trick pony with Lukaku? And Lukaku said it as well. I don't want to be the target man. I hate being the target man. Put the ball behind the defender. I will run onto it. But my man, you're not going to get the ball behind the defender. There's no space. They are sitting deep on you. So where are you sitting on this?
I think that latest comment actually summed it up perfectly. Why are people obsessed with fluidity? Let's just score goals. I want goals. I completely agree with that comment. But yeah, like you said, I think with Lukaku, especially his last few games, you could see very clearly that the opposition would simply cut off our passing lanes to Lukaku, and then we would be scrambling about looking for other players to score. But I still think that because Lukaku was our only goal outlet over this entire period of time, I think that sort of concentrated a lot of defenders onto him. But I think if we sort of arrive at a situation where even if you put all your defenders on Lukaku, then you're still going to have someone else, for example, Hudson-Odoi, to pop in and score a goal. Then that, okay, we're going to have to mark Hudson-Odoi as well. We're going to have to mark Mount as well. And especially now with Reece James and Ben Chilwell contributing to so many goals for us this season, they're also going to start the defenders are going to have to take care of those guys too. So I still think once we sort of get the entire system with everyone fit and firing all together, then I still think Lukaku will probably get a little more space. But I think it's hard to say really, but when you spend 100 million pounds on a player, you expect him to score goals, and you can't bench him. You just can't. I just don't think that's a feasible option at this point. I just think that Lukaku's got to find a way to work around it, and he did actually at Inter Milan, even at Belgium this season. You can see that. We did this on our channel as well. If you compare the heat maps of Lukaku for Chelsea in the Premier League and for Belgium in the qualifiers just this season, you can see that there's so much difference. You can see he moves around a lot more. For Belgium, creating space for the other guys. And I think, with Mount and Havertz, neither of them actually were able to, make use of that space and, by running in, because neither of them are particularly, I know they're fast, but they're not that fast, right? So I still think that when, like I said earlier, when Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic play off of Lukaku, I think it will be a huge help. I think that's what Lautaro Martinez did last season at Inter Milan too. So I think if we are able to use Lukaku properly, if we're able to even if they cut out all passing lanes to Lukaku, if the players around him are able to come up with something, and if Lukaku is able to, sort of drift wide, and I'm not just saying make runs in behind, right? I'm saying like if you're in the middle, then make runs down, like move to the left, move to the right, take the ball, take a touch, pass it on, and then make your run, right? I think we've got to see a little more of that, and hopefully it does work out. And one more miss is actually Kovacic. I think we haven't spoken about that. I think every time Kovacic and Lukaku are on the pitch, they seem to have a great connection. So
yeah,
once Kovacic is back too, I think it could make a huge difference. But let's see. We have a lot of players injured out at the moment, and that's sort of making it hard for everyone to build up chemistry. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. So hopefully everyone's fit for a continued period of time. Hopefully they can work together in training and on the pitch, and hopefully once they get they just have to be on the same mental wavelength, and once they are on that, I still think we're going to get a lot of goals and fluidity from Lukaku.
Kovacic is a good shout there. You said he's been playing a lot of progressive passes, got a lot of assists, and he seems to connect with Lukaku a lot more. And Thomas Tuchel said this in a particular press conference as well. Kishan and Ameya, let's take this to a different level now, where I want to find the right balance, because these conversations that we've been having about Lukaku, I feel like let's try and see if we can visualize the right balance in our mind and see what the fan base, the live chat has to say as well. Nearly 65 of you guys live right now. Smash the like button. We're very, very close to 50 likes. I think we're about 22 likes away. So let's get those likes to 50 straight away. We're going to have a very interesting conversation now. Kishan, let's pencil down Lukaku here.
Yep.
We've been talking about how can we get Lukaku to play a lot more freer with the players around him and not just be the target man, also be able to put the ball behind him at times. And let's try and get to the solution, because I feel like it's not necessarily the system. I feel it's personnel. It's the individuals that are playing and their characteristics. There are certain individuals in our team that are not as direct as opposed to other players. And for example, for me, this whole double pivot situation, I know a lot of people don't want to change the back three, and keep it. I don't mind. Keep the back three. If you don't want to take a center back from here and put him here, okay, fine. That will allow us another attacker. That's okay. You want to keep three at the back? I'm all for it. I don't mind. But I feel in these two positions, you do need to have a double pivot player that is a little bit more expressive, that has the ability to score goals and assists. Let's work out from the top, and then we'll go to the pivot. Who in your perspective, and we'll go to Ameya after this, who in your perspective is two players that will allow for Lukaku to be a lot more freer?
Well, with the system is on the right hand side, I'd put Mason Mount, because there's no getting away from it. He's just way too important for us, and we see when he's not there how important he is. But I think a hard one is going to be,
and he doesn't mess around with the ball either. Like he passes,
he doesn't mess around.
He moves it on.
And I get when people say he's not that kind of, he's not an explosive player on the ball, but some of his, like, how he turns on the ball and stuff like that. No one's got that in our team. The half turns to get away. He's got to be in there. And when I look at the other side, I know we were playing a lot with Mount and Havertz, and I think when Lukaku signed, that was the kind of fantasy that our fans had, that it'd be Lukaku, Mount, and Havertz up front. But we've seen Havertz in that position, and he is the one where I think, when you've not got that kind of fluid side, it'd be him that you have to take out. And I've been quite critical of him over the past few weeks, because I have not really seen him play that great. But I was got to say, yesterday I was majorly impressed with him and where he was operating from. Like, he'd come deep, and you'd see him pop up on the left wing, running past someone.
Well as well. He was
pressing well. Scored a brilliant header. So that was a brilliant performance. But when Lukaku is in, it's going to be a hard task to place him somewhere else, because I don't know, when I've seen him operate those, he's not that creative as well, Miz, is he?
I've said it all along, Kishan. I feel he's actually a substitute to Lukaku. I don't know if Lukaku and Kai, maybe they could work, And they did for Arsenal, but I don't know long term they can be working for every single team against every team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, not for me either. So currently on that left hand side, I'm looking at form. I'm looking at those kind of things, and from who we've got, I've got to keep Callum Hudson-Odoi in there because I've always had this as well with the target man. I felt like Hudson-Odoi was underplayed with Giroud. I think we could have used that a bit more last season. And this season, I want to see Cho from one side and I want to see Reece James putting in crosses from the other side for Lukaku. And I think that will be quite an interesting dynamic.
Ameya, would you agree with this front three, or are you having someone different in the two slots behind
No,
Lukaku?
No, I think I completely agree with Kishan there. I think, considering form right now, it has to be Hudson-Odoi on the left. But, we have to see if Pulisic can continue playing without injuries for some time. And hopefully, if he can discover that incredible form that he was in a couple of seasons back. And even last season in the Champions League too, we often forget that, he had excellent performances against Real Madrid in both the legs. So Pulisic is a great player too. So I think I would put one of Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic. And as things stand, it definitely has to be Hudson-Odoi on the left. And I think we excluded Werner entirely from our conversations actually, which is sort of surprising, but like we discussed earlier, not that surprising. So I would say I would agree though. I think that this is our best front three.
Let's
at the
talk a
moment.
little bit about that, Amir. It's a good point. Timo Werner, when he was playing, we were playing more like this, where Werner would be one of those players next
and
to Lukaku.
almost like putting Mount down, because I think around that time Mount was injured as well. So that really tucked into another midfield. Normally it was as Ruben Loftus-Cheek was coming into the team there. So I'd say that formation, when we had it, it was, and this was against Man City where we played like the five at the back, then the three midfielders, and it was so disconnected to the two up front. Yeah.
Absolutely disconnected. Look, Amir, getting back to your point, Werner is a shout, and it was a shout for me as well. But Callum's ball control just does it for me, man. I know he's not.
His
Callum's
creativity
not someone,
as well. He's been our most creative player this season.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can dispute that. In the few games that he's got off late, he's
You
been our
can't
most
dispute
creative
it.
attacker.
Yeah, you can't dispute it. In this, since the last international break to this international break, especially when he's played mostly almost every game, I believe, he's been the most creative player, Amir. So that's why we've omitted Werner from this. Obviously, Werner's got a lot, rotation, and there'll be injuries again, or whatnot. Amir, let's now talk about the double pivot, and we'll then go to Kishan for the double pivot. This is where Eke was saying, we need to have a conversation about Kante, guys. Now, Amir, I would have gone with Ruben Loftus-Cheek yesterday from the get-go. I said that in my preview. However, Amir, as the game was progressing, I understood why Kante was chosen by Thomas Tuchel, because Burnley's method was long. You're not going to win the first ball because our defenders will win the first ball, but it's the second ball that you're going to compete for. And more often than none, Burnley were there for the second ball almost all the time. But who was the player that was breaking up the second ball? N'Golo Kante. Now, that's fine and dandy for when you're without the ball. How often were we without the ball yesterday?
I mean,
Not that often.
75% of the ball.
There you go. So are you choosing Kante for 25% of the time? The other 75%, honestly, Kante found himself in these areas with the ball. Now, is that the player that you want? Is Kante the player that you want here? Now, you could counter that by saying, Amir, well, that 25% without Kante would have been a lot higher then. They probably would have got maybe 35%, maybe 40%. And that could have been a bit of an issue for us, because if you're not winning the second ball, then someone like, I don't know, Ruben Loftus-Cheek or Jorginho, they would have been outrun in that midfield. What's your thoughts, man? Because I feel like if you want to get the best out of Lukaku, we've already got the two up front that we think that frees him up a lot more. But who are the two in the pivot that allows for a better game for the front three and also Lukaku?
I think it's dependent on the game, really. I mean, there's no.
Let's say low blocks. Let's say low blocks.
Low blocks, I think it has to be Kovac. It has to be one of the players in the double pivot. If it's a low block, I think that's a brainer. The person to partner him with, this is interesting, right? Because if I say Jorginho now, the chat's going to come for me. But
Kovacic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek have played few matches together. Aston Villa and
exactly.
Brentford.
I
By
really
the
want
way,
to say Loftus-Cheek.
he didn't win the Ballon d'Or, did he?
No, not yet.
I don't
but
think
he
so.
may.
I don't think the results are out yet.
There's
Someone was saying
reporting
Messi's already won.
Messi has been told already.
Yeah, it's a leak. Apparently, it's fake. Like someone came up and said that it's fake. So I mean, let's see. There's a lot of time for that. But I'd really want to say Loftus-Cheek here, but I still think it's impossible to pick. Really, I mean, if you asked me 100%. Oh, okay, do go on, Kishan.
I just wanted to add when you said Loftus-Cheek, and this is the thing, when we were talking about a substitution of him coming on yesterday, Miz, and you said you wanted to see someone like Pulisic really put Burnley to the sword. This is my thing with Loftus-Cheek. As well as he's been playing, I don't feel he's going to add much in terms of substance for us, like in terms of actual goals and assists. And if we're talking about players from that position, I think Kovacic probably offers that bit more, and he's that Kovacic substitute. I don't think you put both of them in at the same time because, again, I think he's going to miss
bit of too much of the same thing.
And with the shooting and stuff, I don't really see him getting too many goals for us. And it was same with Fulham. He had everything but that final bit, the assist or the goal, because he played a lot of football last year, and I think he only got one league goal. So I'm not. Every time he comes onto the pitch, I expect him to glide past players and that side of things, but I don't really expect anything of substance from him. So that's why I'm a bit on the edge with him still.
I'll probably semi-agree with some of the stuff that you said, Kishan, because I did see enough of him in terms of Malmo that game. He put on 2 sublime passes for Kai Havertz and put him through. And then I think Norwich, Ziyech actually put the ball through to Ruben Loftus-Cheek when he came on, and I wanted Ruben to actually, Ruben to actually hit it, because then Ziyech would have got the assist and I would have celebrated. But Ruben didn't have the confidence to hit it, and then he squared it to Man, which is fine. At the end of the day, the goal confirmation is a lot more important than, if you're not confident, then you're not confident. I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek's game will get better and better as the season goes on. He will get more into the shooting areas. Let's not forget what he did under Sarri. His shooting was on point, and there were some shots outside of the box that he was pinging and getting the goals for. I still remember in the Europa Cup where Ruben got into a very tight space around and he smacked the goal.
That finish was amazing,
against Frankfurt, I believe, and that was a fantastic finish. So he's got it in his locker. So there's always a reference point to go back that Ruben has that in him. But Ameya, going back to that pivot, because this is important. I like Kovacic and Jorginho, and I know you're kind of going to that particular situation. But against low blocks, if we're talking about low blocks, because we're going to come across most teams, very few teams will take the game at us. Man City, Liverpool in the Premier League, Southampton likes to take the game at us because that's just the way they play. But most teams, even Man United, who we're going to play very soon, straight after the international break, they will sit back. They will look for counters. That's how they play. I just don't know whether Kovacic and Jorginho, as good as they are, like for me, it's a bit too much.
It has to be Kante, I think. Yeah, probably has to be Kante, but you can't exclude.
Then Kante doesn't stay back. Kante doesn't stay back.
But I think at least Kante tracks back, right? I think that's one thing you can say. I mean, Jorginho, although he does hold his ground, I think if Kante, even if he does go forward, like you said, the Burnley game itself, right? They were winning the second balls, but Kante was always there to clean up. So I think, at least N'Golo Kante tracks back. Kovacic tracks back as well. Actually, he's improved it this season. That was one of my criticisms last season.
Defensively, Kovacic has been very
contribution.
Do you guys not think, going forward as well, I think Kante is criminally underrated in terms of just ball progress. Did you see when he sold that Burnley defender yesterday?
He just spun him entirely.
Incredible. But it's just I do get once he gets to that final third, it seems like the final pass is too simple.
But
Yeah.
once he gets
run
there,
so much.
once he gets here,
Yeah, he'll get there and then he'll play one really, really simple pass. And sometimes you think, oh, there's something a bit more on, or shoot it yourself because you know what? He's not got a bad shot. He's probably, if the three out of him, Cover, and Jorginho, I'd probably want him to shoot more than the other two.
But it's interesting. I don't know, man. Honestly, I would still pick Kante though, just for some defensive balance, because I want to put Reece James and Ben Chilwell on either side, and that's gonna the wing backs are definitely gonna push forward. So I want some sort of defensive stability. So I'm gonna put Kante there, but. It's dodgy. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how many games Kante is going to be available for. I mean, he does have
That's
his
the other
injury
factor.
issues this season, so we're going to have to take that into consideration as well. So I think it's going to depend on every game. Honestly, I think it's going to depend on the availability of the players. It's going to depend on Kante's fatigue and whatnot. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to depend on who we're playing against and what Thomas Tuchel has seen throughout the week, basically. So. There's too many factors to consider. I don't think that we're going to have one single game where we have all our fit players available and all of them are fit and ready to play because of our congested schedule, and we have the Club World Cup next season as well. I think everyone's going to be forced to play 3 games a week or 2 games a week, and I think everyone's got to be rotated. I mean, we're even progressing in the Carabao Cup. I was actually half hoping we get knocked out, but we seem to be winning at that too. So I think considering the game loads that we have, and the FA Cup's going to start soon in January too, so I think considering all that, we're not going to have every single player at their 100% for every single game. So it's going to come down to that at the end of the day. But if I had to, then I'd pick these 3.
Ameya, would Kovacic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek be a shout at all? I mean, I know Kishan sort of said that it's a bit of the same, but could we perhaps have Kovacic a little bit further up and maybe Ruben a bit back? I know I rather have Ruben Loftus-Cheek a bit further up and Kovacic more of a deep line playmaker. Could that work?
Tuchel did try it though, didn't he? When we had, I think he played Kovacic, Kante, and Loftus-Cheek together. Right? Yeah, Brentford. I think he played the 3 of them together, and Loftus-Cheek was the deepest of the 3, which was very surprising.
He was.
Actually. So I don't know what Tuchel's been trying, but it could work.
For me, for me, that game was too much chaos. Like, and without Jorginho, I think you do need the controller there because, I get.
To be fair, we didn't have Rudiger or Thiago Silva or any of the leaders in the back. I think that could be one of the problems too.
There was a lot of problems that day in terms. We had Malang Sarr and all sorts on the field. So, it's hard to point out. But I do feel like when we were under the cosh a bit at 1-0, Jorginho was the simple substitute to go to. And I don't know why we didn't do it that day.
Yeah.
No, you're right, man. Jorginho, this is where it does get funny, man. I mean, that double pivot, it's always been my factor where I'm not completely sure what actually allows us the best balance. There are certain combinations that gives us great defensive solidity, but then there are other combinations that doesn't give us more attacking expressions. Do you know what I mean? But then,
you know what? Sorry. But it's like I feel when we're doing well, then our midfield pivot is fine. But I feel like we don't react that position doesn't react well to adversity. If you get what I mean, like if we're chasing a game and like yesterday at 1-1, I kind of thought I kind of switched off at that point with how slow it and like lethargic it was back then. Like I just didn't think we'd move the ball or get a goal. And this is the thing with that part on the pitch. I don't feel like we have that substitute where we make it and we're like, okay, this guy's gonna drive us forward. This guy can actually nick a goal, and that's the annoying part of it.
And that's the thing, Kishan. The double pivot, it's almost like in the system, it's just a connector. It's not designed to score or assist. It seems like it's a connector. Help build up, lay the ball to the forward players. That's it. That's your job. You're not meant to be he.
Yeah, but the issue with that though, Miz, is exactly what we saw against Burnley. Is you carry the ball forward, that's fine, but if you sit back and don't press any of these midfielders and you just mark all the players who are in your attacking half, these guys are not going to take a shot. These guys are not going to drive it in, take a shot themselves, right? They'll
Yeah.
turn and pass it back and maybe look for some movement from the
Yeah.
attackers, which is why I really want to see one of Kovacic or Loftus-Cheek there at all times, because those are the only two guys. I mean, Kovacic, till last season, he wasn't, but this season it looks like he's trying to take shots on. So I really want to see that a lot more. And I think that's one of the reasons why we struggled yesterday, honestly, with Jorginho and Kante. I think they had so much time on the ball right outside the box, but instead of going for the shot or just trying an ambitious pass, because all of our attackers were marked, right? All 5 players who were in attacking positions, whether it be our wing backs, whether it be our striker, whether it be our whoever our wingers, our inside forwards, or whatever you want to call them, really, all of them were marked. And they had so much time on the ball, especially Kante and Jorginho, and I know that they did have a pretty good game themselves, but they're not players who take shots on, right? And who they're not the creative type.
I think yesterday there was there was one moment where Jorginho, I think, took a long range shot.
Yeah, he
Do you
did.
remember?
But that was
I was like, what are you doing?
It was a
I was like, what are you
volley, and
doing?
I thought that as well. I was like, and
It was actually
recently,
a
I
sweet
think
hit.
that's
It was a good hit.
recently I've been seeing him like doing those kind of forward movements a bit more, and then you kind of realize why he's not doing them, because some of them end up.
But you know what the funny thing is, Kishan? It's what you just said. We have recently seen both Kovacic and Jorginho be more progressive. I think this is where the evolution has to come in the system. These two players will need to evolve.
But
we don't want to change the system.
Jorginho hasn't gotten that much of an evolution in terms of attacking. In terms of shooting and stuff, like I just can't see. And this is maybe the one thing that Saul Niguez does have on everyone in our midfield, is that if he plays, he will shoot, and he's got quite a strike on him. But
everyone's forgotten about Saul Niguez.
Literally, everyone's forgotten about him, and the
is
way he played.
Is he there?
I don't know, mate. The way he played against Villa, it's only right that people forgot about him, to be honest. But if he does creep back in, and he pulls his socks out, maybe he is an option in terms of that kind of attacker, box to box kind of player. But I don't know. That's just a left field kind of thing.
On the side sort of note, boys, this is the situation that happens against the low block. What we see in the screen right now. It's literally Chilwell, Reece James, more sort of inverted. You're the front 3, and then I feel like, yes, in recent times, Reece James and Chilwell have been able to bail us out. They've been in good goal scoring, form, and they get themselves into these sort of areas. But if we can get something from these two players, and Kovacic has been providing assists, so let's not be harsh on him. And this is my thing, guys. I feel like the system, I don't need it to change. We still got 3 at the back. If we have our best, let's say, Rudy, at the moment, the way we've been playing is Rudy, Silva, and AC. Seems like that seems to be the go-to for Thomas Tuchel at the moment. Those 3, they should be able to defend any counters. They really should. There's 3 at the back. And then you have either Jorginho, who stays as close as possible. So if there is a 3-on-3, these 3, I'm very positive that they can do the job. And most times it's actually 3-on-4, because Kovacic does go back, and as Ameya was saying, there's some good defensive stats on Kovacic as well. And also Jorginho finds himself into good positions to intercept. I mean, final thought from both of you guys. Go to Ameya first up. This is where I feel we can allow a player to be, and I wish this was like a Bernardo Silva, man. I really wish this was like a Bernardo Silva right there. Do you know what? I'm just going to change it. I'm just going to say, just for argument's sake, imagine that was that kind of player, what that would mean for a player like Lukaku. Ameya, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I still think... look, man, it's going to be slightly long. This is not final thoughts. This is like a pre-final thoughts.
Final thesis before the thoughts.
Yeah. So, I mean, get ready for that. But look, right, I said this yesterday. I was on Chelsea Perspective as well, and I said the same thing, that the best teams, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, all of them, they play with the standard formation where you have 5 attacking players who occupy each and every half space, right? So which is why it's the same with us, even Antonio Conte for that matter, right? Everyone keeps 5 attacking players, especially when we are on the attack, and so that they can, occupy every half space, because that's the most balanced you can get. So if you have 5 up front, it's usually 3-5 or 2-3-5, depending on, where you want to position your players. For example, if you look at Liverpool, right, they had Fabinho, who was always dropping in between the 2 centre backs, who became 3-5. As for City, Walker never overlaps. Walker always, sort of drifts into midfield. So they've had, so that sort of stuff, I think it's different to every club. The players, for example, Conte is pretty straightforward, right? If he has 3 up front and 2 wing backs, so it's different for every single coach. But in the end, they want to achieve the same thing. They want to achieve a 3-5 or a 2-3-5, because if you commit 6 forward, then I think you leave yourself exposed at the back, especially in the Premier League, right? You cannot commit too many men forward in the Premier League. You're going to get hit on the counter.
Has done that. Pep has done that.
No, I think Pep always interchanges, though. I think, you look at, which is why he used Zinchenko and, Fabian Delph and such players who are actually midfielders and converted them into left backs. Because he wants his full backs to drop into those midfield positions so they still maintain that 2-3-5 shape. That's what he does. I think, which is why, he also has the pace of Walker to rely on. So I think worst comes worst, Walker will just, turn on his boosters and track back. So I still think, so they effectively maintain that same system. So what you're trying to propose here, I think with Bernardo Silva there, it's a little bit risky. So which is also why I think, although on paper we still maintain that 3-5 and have 5 attacking players, right? None of the 2 in midfield don't offer that goal threat, which is also why when you look at the 4-3-3, you will maintain that shape, but you will also have an extra midfielder in there to try and sort of get the goals and assists. And although, for me, that's Mount. I think he can put a shift as a number 8, even Loftus-Cheek for that matter, like how he did under Sarri, right? So you're going to have 5 attacking players, and the midfielders who are behind you can also contribute to the goals. That's what City did when they had David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne playing together with Fernandinho in behind them, right? And that's why I still have a slight reservation about the system. I know I'm not saying it's wrong or anything, but because none of our midfielders really can offer that, and they can't, right? Because if they get into a goal scoring position, then you're going to leave yourself exposed at the back, right? So you don't have an option to do that. And none of them, although they're trying now, but none of them really take as many long shots, or even if they do, none of them are, the probability of that going in is very, very low. I mean, let's be honest here, guys. Let's be honest. So I think it's a complicated situation, and I think we have had, the issue is, although the system isn't perfect, we have so many, different types of players in the system who are more suited to particular games. That's what Tuchel's been trying out, right? That's why he's introduced Ross Barkley and, the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek in once again, right? So I think that we do have options, we do have different kinds of players, and the players are good in their own right. So I think when they're on the top of their game, we get those goals, even though the system isn't perfect. But I still think that, is it sustainable? Definitely. But this is going to raise a few eyebrows, really. But our system is not perfect, and
it isn't. It's mostly it's a defense. It's defense first. It's making sure that you're solid in defense. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not defensive, because we've been scoring goals. It's more defensively solid. That's the ideology with this system.
Exactly.
This is what Thomas Tuchel. You need to understand, when Thomas Tuchel first came in, he said, we want to be able to be hard to beat. He didn't say we want to go out there and smash teams.
Yeah.
We want to be hard to beat. Yeah. Understand what he's trying to say. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So I still think our system isn't perfect, but we have enough quality in our attacks to score in each and every single game, and we have enough firepower from the bench to come on and replace our attack in case needed, which is why I think we will still continue with this. But it's far from perfect, and I still think we need reinforcements in a couple of areas before we become sort of invincible per se.
Kishan, what's your thoughts, man? We're mostly talking about low blocks, because teams that sort of want to play toe-to-toe with us, we do all right. We can go toe-to-toe with teams, but I'm talking more about teams that want to sit deep, and we need to find solutions we don't always tend to find solutions. So, what's your
I
thoughts on
want to
this?
know firstly where Bernardo Silva came from. I missed that part. where he's not a player.
I would like to have a player like Bernardo Silva, but yeah, let's put Kante there because he finds himself in that location.
Back to reality.
Back to reality, right?
Yeah, so similar to what you guys say with it, it's like the system's not perfect. And when you think about Thomas Tuchel as a coach as well, for me, this system is not him, but he's made do with like the tools that he has. Whereas, like, if you asked him in an ideal world what he'd like to play, I think he'd say 4-3-3 as well.
Yeah.
So for now, I think it's about managing until we get maybe the players he thinks that he can sort of work with. Because I don't know, these kind of players, Miz, you got to remember where Jorginho and Kova and those kind of players, where we saw them in a 4, we were pretty much, a lot of our fan base were done. I was done with players like Jorginho. Like, you know how I tapped out on Ziyech. Jorginho was one of them for me, where I thought this guy's bang average, useless.
Under Frank Lampard was
he's come in and made everyone look really, really good. And this is the part, if he changes that formation to something like a 4-2-3-1 and someone like Jorginho or Kovacic don't get enough protection, they will start looking bang average again. So it's
a very good point, bro.
You
it's
need
a very
that,
good point.
Yeah, so like that system is what has made us look so good. That system is what has won us the Champions League and stuff. And so far, the players haven't changed that much. If you look at the only change that has really, really happened in the first team, it's only pretty much Lukaku coming in since that formation has changed. So I think, again, for one player, it's a hard ask to change the whole formation. But over the next sort of 2 to 3 years, if Tuchel is still here, then I think we'll see what this formation and what our team sort of evolves into, with a different
100%.
profile of defensive midfielder and stuff. So you'll get a lot of players saying, people saying we don't need a certain profile of DM, but I still think that's one of the main reasons for when you have an athletic DM that can do sort of both sides of the game quite well and get to box to box, you will see that we don't have to play in that certain manner to protect certain individuals.
100%, man. No, it's been a fantastic conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys got something out of the whole Lukaku conversation. We talked a lot about Ziyech as well. We talked a lot about systems. We're about 19 likes away from 50. Let's get to 50 likes if we can. We've had over 70, 80 throughout the stream. So let's get to another 19 likes to get to 50. That'd be much appreciated. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Check out the boys and their socials in the description. Ameya with his YouTube channel. Please check that out. And now the international break's coming up. We're going to try and do maybe a few lives here and there and some videos, later in the evening. So do make sure you hit the bell notification and just be in and around with all these conversations with different topics that are going to come up. Until next time, everyone, enjoy the weekend and so yeah.